Hey everyone, happy Saturday. Thanks for tuning into what we'll call the special edition of Waller's Wallet. And since Citi didn't relaunch the Citi Prestige as expected, I couldn't get the information to give a proper review on the card. So I'm going to wait till that actually comes out so I can give a proper review on that card. But I figured many of you actually wanted to hear on how to book flights on American Airlines for fewer miles. And since I said there'd be a bonus video this week, I figured we would go ahead and do that. And as always, I'll be answering your questions towards the end of this video. So when looking at partners for American Airlines, some of the better ones, especially for domestic travel, we're going to look at are British Airways and Iberia, and even potentially Etihad miles. I'll also talk about Etihad with an example of those towards the end as well. I have pictures of the award charts and whatnot. We'll be looking at those. And what makes these interesting, is that these are all going to be very good in certain situations. So it's definitely important to take a look at all of your options for one world partners with Iberia, British Airways, and American Airlines, and even Etihad. So it's just really important to do that because you're going to notice in some of these examples that one airline is going to give you a great value one booking, and then going to be an awful value the next. So a couple of things to consider. They're all part of the British Airways, Iberia, and American Airlines are all part of the One World Alliance. Etihad is a non-alliance partner for American Airlines. British Airways and Iberia both have co-branded credit cards with Chase, and they are subject to the Chase 524 rule. And you can actually move your points from British Airways to Iberia and vice versa, so you can kind of pull these points together between your accounts. Some things you do want to know about British Airways, though. British Airways, their award prices are based on distance and number of segments. So if you fly one segment at X number of miles, you're going to be charged if you have a layover, it's going to be charged for each segment. And so the best use for British Airways Avios are pretty much for shorter nonstop flights. You want to make sure the shorter, because you're going to see they offer great value, but the nonstop because you don't pay for the extra segment. There are no fuel surcharges whenever you do book domestic American Airline flights, but the fuel surcharges on international flights are ridiculously high, and I would really not use them that way. And when you're looking for other award partners on One World Partners, British Airways is actually a really good website to use. The other one would be to look at is Qantas, but British Airways is really good when it comes to that. Iberia Airlines, just like British Airways, is a distance-based program, except it includes the segments. So you're going to see in a couple examples, it just takes the cumulative distance for your travels. I have their award chart as well. Well, I'll show you that here in a second. But their award chart is priced as a round trip. And even if you book it out as a one-way, you're still going to pay the round trip price. So you do want to keep that in mind. It does not cut the award prices in half by booking a one-way. So award taxes and fees are just a little bit higher for booking domestic tickets on American Airlines. And for international airlines, they do pass off the fuel surcharges to customers, but they are lower than British Airways. Even working with the website this morning, their French website can be extremely frustrating at times. It'll tell you there's no availability when you can know there is. So you do have to keep working with it, keep some patience, don't give up on it because it is there and it can offer a lot of value. And to calculate distance, I use what is gcmap.com. And what it is, you put in your airports, and I'll show you this examples as well. I put in my airports. It shows me the total distance, either one-way segments or round trips. So I have an idea of what those prices are going to be before I even start looking. Because if it's too far, it's not even worth my time to look at Iberia or British Airways potentially, just for the price, knowing I can get a certain price for another one. And then we'll look at American Airlines. We all know about their award chart. It's a pretty standard award chart. They are making some changes, though, to Hawaii here in a couple of weeks as well. I believe they're moving Canada into the North American time frame or price range. So we want to keep an eye out for that as well. They have their co-branded credit cards. They offer and depending on which co-branded credit card you have, you do receive a discount on award flights. If you were to book some of their discounted flights, which they post every couple of months, they renew those there. Their co-branded credit cards with the Citi card, the Citi Platinum Select, and the Barclays Aviator Red give you the 10% rebate as well as the Aviator Silver. 10% rebate as well, up to 10,000 miles a year. They've just started doing more economy web specials, which aren't published, but you do have to be an eye out for those. And so those could be a good, decent value for as well. I mean, they were showing, I think a couple of weeks ago, it was like LA to Barcelona for like 5,000 miles. So they could be a good value. So, and why we also want to take a look at Etihad, and then we'll get into some examples. So Etihad, pretty much you can book the old American Airlines award chart on Etihad. So this is a great way to save yourself thousands of miles flying internationally, even probably first class domestic on their Transcontinental 320, Airbus 321 as well. So you're going to see how good those are. They're partners of membership rewards and thank you points, so you can earn Etihad points pretty quickly. And remember, when we're looking at award availability, the partner space needs to be on American Airlines, and you're going to have to call Etihad to book those. Now, it has to be on American metal, though. You can't look at for saver availability, and they have flights on Iberia or British Airways. It has to be American Airline metal for this to work. And some of the big draws here is that you can fly transcontinental first class. Here, we'll say from Boston to San Francisco for only 25,000 Etihad miles versus 50,000 would cost you on American Airlines. Their taxes and fees are pretty reasonable as well. They're more on the side of American Airlines than they are for British Airways and Iberia. And I was actually right before this live, I actually called Etihad because based on their terms and conditions, you're allowed a stopover, but I could find no information telling me what that meant. So when I called, it's pretty much the way they explained it. I'll take his word for it because I can't find any other information out there. If you have a layover, you can turn that layover into a stopover, but they're going to charge you for that segment and the following segment. So really, I don't think it's necessarily worth doing because you're being charged for two segments. It's basically booking two one-way tickets. So now let's go ahead and look at a couple of examples. I'm going to make my screen large and then share my screen. Right. Share my screen here. All right, I think we are good to go. So first example we're going to look at from Boston to DC, and we're going to go across all these ones here. You're going to see that the distance base for Iberia and British Airways is going to work out pretty well here. We are going to book these all in round trips because you'll get to see the full extent. So we're going to look and say that you're going to have a long weekend in September in DC. 917. Well, that loads up. Boston to DC. 12. 12 to 917. I don't know why it keeps putting it in first class, so keep an eye on that as well. You know, we're looking in coach here. It's looking. Now, as I said, Iberia. So when you go to Iberia, it's a bit of a funky website. You want to go to Iberia Plus. You do need a login to get in here. The other two, British Airways, you do as well. But you can also search. I think you can search American without them. So when you get to here, you're going to see use my Avios. You got to scroll all the way down to the bottom. I mean, go straight down to the bottom. Go to booking with Avios. And you're going to see, you're going to open up this, if it opens up correctly, it's been giving me errors today. Okay, no, but it opens up fine. You can put your destinations in here. You don't want to do that. This is only for if you're looking on Iberia. Scroll down here to booking with Avios. This is going to show you what is going on with these flights here. So Boston. Now you're going to notice I put DCA and everything else. For some reason, it doesn't register that, so it's Washington. Now we want 912 to 917. Now, earlier I mentioned Great's GC map. So what this is it shows you the distance. So we're looking from Boston to DC, right? And what this tells you is tells you our distance. And this is round trip. So actually I needed to put back to Boston here. You can see that this is currently 798 miles round trip. Now, I'll show you on their award chart. Am I still? British Airways, I think you can see that, right? Over here on British Airways, or on Iberia. Actually, yeah, okay, you can see it. Okay, over here on Iberia, you can see the distances for these flights. Actually, let me minimize this real fast so I can show you both. All right, so for this here, you're going to be able to see the overall distance. Remember that flight there on the Great Circle map was 798 miles, which means, where did it go? That's not good. There it is. 798 is going to fall in the 12,000 round trip here if we can get that to book out, which is going to be pretty fantastic for us when I can show you that. Use miles. All right, British Airways is going to price out. We're going to just pick our flights here so you can see. And British Airways prices out at 15,000 Avios and $11.20, which is a pretty good price. I mean, that's not a terrible price whatsoever. And you can see On the same pricing scale, you're going to pay 15,000 miles and $11.20. Not bad for pricing, except you can fly that same exact flight over. I'm just going to price it out so you can see it. See 15,000, except you can book that same exact flight over here using Iberia points or Iberia miles for $12,000 or 12,000 miles in $20. So you're going to save yourself 3,000 miles by booking this. And if you remember correctly, a couple months ago, about a month and a half ago, maybe, American Express had a 40% bonus when you transfer points to either British Airways or Iberia. So this would be even less on those there. So you save yourself 3,000 miles here, which is a fantastic offer in general. So the next one we're going to take a look at is you're going to see now the stopover or with a layover and how the joint segments work really well. So let's say you're from Oklahoma City, you're going to go out to Denver. On Denver, we're going to go out from 10-2 to 10-8. 10-8. Make sure we hit redeem miles this time. And on British Airways, we're going to change our search to Oklahoma City to Denver. Not the right one. All right. And that was at 10-2 to 10-8. Going to go economy. And then we're going to go back and we're going to search Iberia as well. Oklahoma City. Now, I did take screenshots of these just in case this wasn't going to cooperate with me because I had such a difficult time this morning getting Iberia to function, which I said is a very common thing. So you just need to be patient with it and realize that that is okay. You'll get it to work if you just persistence pays off. All right, now that one's looking, that's good. Now you can look here. It's going to be 25,000 American Airline miles to fly from Oklahoma City to Denver. And you can see you're going to have a layover as well in Dallas, Fort Worth. Now, just picking flights so we can get to the pricing. Now you're going to see 25,000 and $11.20. Some people might say that's really good, and they're happy with that. Now you can go over here. Now, remember, this is what I was talking about. This is one segment that's going to price out and another segment that's going to price out. And then on the way home, same exact thing. So now British Airways here is 30,000 Avios and $11.20. This is worse than American Airlines. This is now off the table because now we can fly American Airlines even cheaper. But we have these options here, same exact options as we have on the other two airlines. We're going to go ahead and view this here. And as this loads up, you're going to see it is 17,000 Avios and $29.20. So you do pay a little bit more in taxes, but you're saving yourself 8,000 miles or 8,000 points. And American Airline miles are harder to come by because they don't transfer out to different they don't have many transfer partners because it's just it is now just Marriott. Okay. So, and if we were to look at that here, you could see why that works. So GC Mapper, we're going OKC to Dallas, Fort Worth, to Denver, back to Dallas, Fort Worth, back to Oklahoma City. And you can see it's not too far. It's 1,600 miles, but they stop here. And so you're being charged here for British Airways and here for British Airways. And Iberia just takes the cumulative sum of these, which is what we have right here. Where'd it go? All right. So right here, 17,000 miles, which is a great deal. So this would be the way I would book it if given the option. Now we're going to look at a transcontinental flight from from JFK to San Francisco. Let's see if there's any questions while this loads up. All right. Hey, Lion, how are you doing? All right. All right. So JFK to San Francisco. This is going to be important as well when we look, because currently there's no availability as far as Etihad, but you'll be able to see what I mean here in a second. So we're going to say you're going at the end of this month. You know what? I'm going to go visit some friends out in San Francisco. Why not? All right. Changes here. JFK San Francisco. We're gonna make this a one-way flight. Now, I'll try it again, but I couldn't get Iberia to actually price this out, but I'll show you why it doesn't matter anyways about them getting to price this out. So I'm gonna go nope, economy. So right here, I'll show you why it doesn't matter. So San Francisco, or sorry, JFK to San Francisco nonstop is we'll say 2,600 miles. So based on their award chart, where did it go? Oh, here it is. I minimized it. So based on this award chart, it doesn't really matter. One way is still going to price out as a round trip. It's going to be 23,000 miles. So that is not even worth our time to look at, because you're going to see from the first one on American Airlines, 12,500 miles. And you're like, fantastic, much better than Iberia. And that is very true. But you're going to see this nasty thing that American Airline has that British Airways won't charge you, though. American Airlines, that's not what I was looking for. Where'd it go? American Airlines charges a close-in fee. I think I may have chosen the wrong date. Here, I'll just choose the 20th for fun. If we booked within 21 days, they charge you an extra $75 for a flight. This is not working out well. So what it was, whenever I priced it out today beforehand, must have picked a different date, was 12,500 miles and $80.60. But over here on British Airways, that same nonstop flight would be 12,500 miles and $5.60. So you do want to keep an eye out on that. It might be, if it's within 21 days, you should still look to British Airways if everything is equal, because of that close-in fee. Now, you're going to see there's no saver availability here, but if there was, you would be able to book this saver availability via Etihad for 25,000 miles, when this would cost you 50,000 miles. Remember, it does need to be on American Airlines. So you can just uncheck Alaskan there, and you can go ahead and see. Oh, let's just see if our price is out. You can see there's this close-in fee. So that's important to keep an eye out on, because there's options. British Airways won't charge that to you. Now, we're going to take a look at Hawaii. I said we would take a look at a Hawaii example, and why, you'll see that some of these options are going to be better. Like, again, British Airways might take the cake on this one here. So LAX to Honolulu. This tip here is really more so for the West Coast people, because you have the really nice option of British Airways out that way. So on 28, 214. I don't know. Probably said maybe 213. That's what it was. LAX. $213. Find flights, and then we're going to price this out again on Iberia, because you'll get to see how bad Iberia will be on this one. 28 to 214. So while that loads up, let me pull up British Airways chart. So you have to go digging around for this, but you can see, first of all, for the US, our lowest price frame is 7,500 miles. Doesn't matter. The 4,500 you'll see in Europe for an off-peak as well, or I think it's 4,000 maybe for off-peak in Europe, but 4,500 is the lowest you'll see. And so up to 1,149 miles, you're going to be priced at 7,500 miles, which is pretty nice. You'll notice here on Iberia, we're really concerned more so in this range here. Less than 4,000 miles domestically, round trip could be a better offer for you. But once you start getting up into these higher mileage numbers of distance, it's not really beneficial. So you want to just keep an eye on how far you're going. Lower is typically better for Iberia. And you're going to know, let's go back over, minimize those. And there we go. So Iberia has the direct as well. We're going to fly to Honolulu. It's pricing out. So American Airlines Sure enough, take a look at this. There's an economy web special now. So we can take a look at this. And it's pricing out at 14,500 miles one way, which you might be going, that's pretty awesome. Because you know what? Their typical price is 20,000 for their economy saver, which is a nice savings of 5,500 miles. And it's go. That's not what I want to do. But now British Airways, we have our direct nonstop flight from LA to Honolulu and back. But take a look at that. 25,000 Avios and $11.20 from LA down to Honolulu. And British Avios is absolutely atrocious here at 42,000 Avios and $20.20. So even though, American Airlines looks good, that's fine. We're not worried about making changes. Even though it looks good at 14,500 miles for a web special, it's not. You can save more miles by booking through Avios. 29,000 compared to 25. I'll pay 25 every single time. Now, if you were to look to do this on Etihad, it would be 35,000 miles round trip to do this in coach. So that's something you do want to keep an eye on. Avios here would win every time for you. Now, lastly, we're going to take a look at an international one, which you're going to get to see Etihad and how great it is. And we'll talk about Etihad too when we get to Etihad. So we're going to look from British Airways. We're going to reset all these ones here. All right, we're going to be looking from Philly to Budapest. Now, if you haven't been to Budapest, I absolutely recommend going. We went a few years ago. It's a gorgeous place. The U.S. dollar is actually really strong there. And there's a lot of history, a lot of good food, and a lot of sights to see. And typically, what people do if they have an extended period of time there, they'll even take the train up into Prague or Vienna. So I would definitely recommend that if you're on the fence about Budapest. I definitely would say get on a plane and go. All right, we're going to look here as this loads up. We'll see if there's any other questions. All right. Let's see. All right, I'll get to all those questions in a second. Some of the longer ones. Let's see. Philly to Budapest. 5.6 to 5.13. 5.13. This is just trial and error. I think I spent a little bit of time trying to get some of these to price out earlier, and you'd get errors when doing so. Or you'll notice that maybe it pops up on American, but it doesn't pop up over on British Airways. So you have to just finagle it a little bit. It does take patience, a little bit of just persistence as well. So you can see we're going to book this nonstop direct flight from Philly to Budapest on American Airlines. If not, you're going to pay this is going to take cumulative segments here. It's going to take more time. Plus, you want to avoid British Airways if possible, just because of the fact it's going to increase your fuel cost. Same thing on the way home. Budapest back to Philly. We're going to take a view here. Now, British Airways will always ask you if you want to stop over. I always select no here because they charge you per segment. So why do I want to pay more to fly your airline to stop? It's not anything I would ever do. But something, if you want to do, take a look at. I just personally don't do it. So you can take a look here. It's going to be 60,000 American Airlines miles to fly this flight, which is 30,000 is pretty standard for carriers to fly to Europe. And so you might be saying, that's okay. 50,000, 60,000 miles and $50. That I'm cool with that. Let's do that. I'm going to go to, Budapest for $50. We're going to pick these flights back home as well. So British Avios is why this is a garbage offer, why this is a garbage use for these. 50,000 Avios and $448. Now, I didn't check the cash price of this ticket, but I'm sure you're not getting yourself, $1,000 worth of value by this here. So, or at a cash price ticket of $1,000 or more. So this here would be an absolutely wasted use of your Avios points just because of these fuel surcharges. And you know what? The same thing here with Iberia. 65,000 Avios and $410. Absolutely not. You should never do that. And I hope you are paying attention to that. So the reason why we want to look at Etihad. So Etihad is pretty interesting. Remember, I said they work on the old American Airline chart. So you can fly. So let's just scroll down real fast. Because what's interesting is that if you look at the off-peak time, what's considered off-peak for North America and Europe, it's October 15th to May 15th. It's what, like 6, 7 months, which is great. If you were to look at American Airlines, the same off-peak to Europe, there's a huge gap. January 10th to March 14th and November to December. Those are considered off-peak dates. So this off-peak for Europe on American Airlines for coach is 22,500 miles. So that's not a terrible value, but their off-peak time is so limited. But don't worry, Etihad's got you covered. October 15th to May 15th, and here you go. It's going to be only 20,000 Etihad miles to fly this exact flight for a fraction of the, for 10 or for 20, one third of the miles. So, which is a great use of your points. If you're someone looking for business class, Etihad charges $50,000 to fly business class, while American Airlines charges $57,500. And if you want to look back, to go back and look at a second, if you're someone who prefers to fly up front, the premium cabins, $62,500 to fly first class on American. But don't worry, if you were to take a look, saver availability is $85,000, but actually we might not even be able to find that one. You actually don't even have availability because of that. But if it did, it would price out at $85,000, and that's a huge savings if you were to book Etihad versus American Airlines. Some really good value in this chart. I mean, Asia 1 is 25,000 miles on off-peak. So if you were to look down at what Asia 1 consists of, Japan, Korea, Mongolia. So you want to go to Tokyo, you want to go to Seoul. You can go there as well for 50,000 miles round trip, or you could even fly premium cabin for 50,000 one way when other airlines will charge you 60 to 70,000 depending on the location. So there is a lot of opportunity in Etihad, and I think people do overlook it because you do have to make that phone call and you can't necessarily book online. Now, as far as looking in the U.S. For domestic ones, so this is for domestic regions, you can look. So the big push here is within the United States, economy is 12,500 on Etihad. You're going to have that either way with other airlines. This actually, I don't think is a good. I mean, if you're flushed with points and you don't want to use American Airline miles or have any others, this could be a decent option for you. But if you have membership reward points, Chase points, you have British Avios, you have Iberia, so you have other options. This is the one that is interesting, though. This is what I was talking about. If you can find the first class saver availability, Transcontinental, you can fly this for 25,000 points as opposed to 50,000 points, which is a huge savings in general. 5,000 for intra-Hawaiian Island hoppers as well. So there's good value in this here. And just like I said, people just don't take a look at this award chart often enough. I'm a big fan of it. I've personally never used them because I just burnt a bunch of American Airline miles to get rid of them because I don't like to sit on airline specific ones, but I definitely have some trips coming up where I will be looking to this award chart as well. I mean, 62,500 for the South Pacific. To study this, take this down and take a look at it. Now, other things to consider with Etihad. If you're someone who flies with has a baby and you're flying with an infant, some airlines will charge you part of the revenue cost. Infant tickets are going to be charged at 10% of the adult mileage value. So from my understanding of reading that, it would have cost you 2,000 miles to fly that baby over to Europe. And, I don't think that's unfair. I think that's a pretty decent cost when I think Aeroplan charges you 10% of the revenue ticket, which could be far more expensive. So for those people, this could be a pretty decent option as well. Not valid on code shares, which remember means it has to be on American Airline metal. It says stopovers are permitted, but after talking to Etihad, it sounds like that's a garbage use of your points in general. I don't think we did that there. But as always, I'll actually stop sharing that screen. But as always, this was just a couple of examples on how you can use these points to fly domestically, internationally, using some of these miles as well. And you could just see the examples on how you can really save miles with American Airline, flying American Airline metal, but not using American Airline miles. I think the bonuses on American Airline credit cards are great, but for everyday earnings of them, I don't think they're necessarily great in the sense that the earning potential is not there, and you have cards that can help you get those miles and points sooner and fly American Airline metals for potentially less points. I think I had a couple questions as well, so let me take a look. Actually, great video. Would I recommend Delta or A for the West Coast? Brady, I think it really depends on, I would take a look at both. And the reason why I say you want to look at both is because Delta's been having some killer flash sales from the West Coast, especially over to Asia. AA, they have, LA, I think they, is LA one of their hubs? I can't remember if it's one of their hubs or not. But I would compare prices of both just for the fact that but I prefer Delta because they're more on time. I don't think I flew an entire flight on American last year where they left on time. So, that kind of rubs me the wrong way with them. That's something that's American Airlines, I think, has just been pretty terrible about being able to leave on time, and deliver on time. So let's see. I had a question beforehand from Champ. He asked me thoughts on the executive card. Is it worth it? What are my thoughts on the executive club? So I think if you're someone who flies a lot of American Airlines, and you like that lounge experience, I think so. If you're an American Airline loyalist, you fly them for business and that's what you have, I don't think it's a terrible card for the benefits. I think the Platinum card probably gives you more perks. But now that all these airlines have been really restrictive on the lounge access that you need to be flying those airlines, if you're an American Airlines flyer, it might not be a bad idea for you if you want to avoid priority passes, which are becoming overcrowded in general. But then again, from what I read, American Airline lounges are becoming crowded as well. I've been to an American Airlines lounge a couple of times. I thought they were all right. I'm pretty easy to please, though. I don't really necessarily need high-end stuff. They had beer in there. They had food. I was pretty happy. But overall, I thought it was okay. And then there was another question about comparing the big US 3. What do I prefer? Actually, you should stay tuned for that. I'm actually working on a couple videos comparing their mid-level, the big threes, mid-level and premium credit cards. I think that's a pretty interesting comparison for some people because I think it just shows value between those cards there. All right, let's see. Do you shop all airlines to find the cheapest flights, or do you cater to loyalty to gain miles? Champ, I am a free agent. I don't let airlines try to gain my loyalty because I don't believe loyalty flows one way with airlines. It is money in their pocket. I will look, credit cards are great. The co-brand credit cards are great in the sense that, I get my free check bag. So you can really combat, premium economy or basic economy, if you will. But I'm not loyal to any airline. I'm loyal to whatever gets my points the most value and gets me to that location the cheapest. I've flown Iceland Air. I've been, I thought they were great. And some people won't fly them because they would be considered like be a low cost carrier. But I thought they were actually a pretty good ride, and I like their stopover program in Reykjavik. Let's see. How about So I would be true to your wallet. Don't let airlines dictate because you end up spending more money that way, in my opinion. How about American Airlines for South America? I didn't cover it directly, Kyle, for South America, but Etihad has some really good value. So if you want to look at the chart here for South America, off-peak 17,500 for South America regions 1 and 2. But if we want to look up here what those would be, it's a decent amount of time frame for what those are. Etihad, South America, where it is 20,000 off-peak. So you could potentially do better depending on what location you're flying. But for off-peak from South Region 1, which, does it tell you what it is? I think we have to go to another, what will tell you what that is. Overall, but, I've read great things about them. I haven't flown those flights down there to South America on American. So you do want to play around with those charts. You're not with those, you're probably going to look at American themselves because of the fact you're going to start getting into some really long distances. Now, if we look back over at Etihad, let me see if I can. So Etihad's got, inside South America, I've read this one. So let's see, miles you're reading. So GOL or GOL, I'm going to say GOL, is a lower cost carrier, but you can see flying certain distances could be a really good value inside South America as well. So again, you'll need to call these here. But this is an option as well. I thought Etihad was pretty good when talking on the phone, pretty quick to get through. But you can see they have a lot of other partners as well. But keep this in mind if you're going to be flying between countries in South America. Actually, you're still looking at me. You're not even looking at the chart. Let me see if I can share my screen. Sorry about that. So if we go back over here to this chart on Etihad, sorry about that. So GOL, you can see the distance-based traveled inside South America. for this here, and you're going to get some decent value out of your Etihad points for economy or even comfort economy. So I would keep an eye on those as well. But as far as American, you can see that it's, there could be decent value in there. You might still want to look at Etihad in general. Let me stop sharing my screen. All right, another question. Let's see. Specifically, sorry about specifically, you are an MR partners. I'm not sure what you're saying there, Kyle. If you want to rephrase it, I'll answer it here in a second. Why do I not like to hold miles? I've been hoarding Sky Miles for 6 months. Am I missing something? Champ, the reason I don't like to hoard miles, especially, well, Deltas don't expire, but I don't hoard miles in the sense that miles are only going to devalue. You rarely see a revaluation. I think the most recent one we saw was Wyndham a handful of years back where they redid it to 15,000 miles points per night. So if you hold them for too long, you start seeing devaluations, more miles cost for that same flight. So you want to, I typically hold flex. If you want to hold anything, it should be more flexible currency. But, as Kyle says, earn and burn, baby, devaluations happen. So, I keep some on the side just for an occasional trip that I might be planning, but you do want to have some plans with those points. But holding miles, you're only opening yourself up to devaluations to where you might not have enough miles for that trip you're thinking about in the future. United is LA. All right, good to know. Thank you for that. Good point. Have I ever been concerned about my safety when traveling overseas? David, personally, I haven't. I do think, I am aware, and I do have to definitely keep an eye out for what's going on when I'm traveling. But I've never really felt unsafe traveling outside of the US. I don't think I've gone any place that's been super dangerous, but I mean, I think at one point we'd just gotten back from Barcelona, and like 4 months later, there was someone who took a bus through the La Rambla where we were at. So things do happen. I think things can happen when you're at home as well, but I've never felt truly unsafe traveling internationally. I think if you're worried about that, some places in Europe are very, I don't want to say Americanized, but they definitely cater to the American citizen very well. It might be a good first international trip if you're worried about that. Favorite rewards card for the beginning of 2019? Man, I really like that Amex Gold right now. I think it's good for most people. I think it's good for a lot of families. Dining and groceries are pretty fantastic. I wish that they would kind of redo that dining credit. For example, I don't have access to Grubhub or Seamless here, so that's a completely wasted benefit for myself. But it's a really good way to rack up the points. Would you link it? Absolutely, Kyle. I will link the Etihad chart in the description below after the video. Definitely, you should bookmark that, take a look at it, and play around with the American Airlines chart, because you're going to see how the saver availability, make sure it has to be American metal only. So uncheck any other airline. You'll get to see what's out there. Play around with that. All right, David, let's see. Sapphire Preferred and Venture, if you're worried about those ultra high fees. Sapphire Reserve, Amex Platinum. I'm not sure. You're asking about, okay. So, I just think as in addition to all of these here, you definitely should also pay attention to the cash price of these tickets. These are examples to show you what your miles can do for you. But there have been some really awesome fares around the world to where it might not be worth, spending 60,000 American Airline miles when the ticket's $350 round trip, maybe burning flexible currency through the portal or your cash back that you've earned. So you definitely do want to price compare those out, because while it's great to spend $50, I would hate to see you overspend your points to do that when you could save those for another trip as well. So I'm curious, leave me a comment. How do you plan to use these methods to help you book out American Airline tickets or just flights in general? I've done a couple of these videos. One airline that Alliance or chart we'll look at later, because it's a little bit more in depth, is Asia Miles. There is some value there, but it is very time consuming for people, I think, to do. And I think for most people, they're not going to put that effort into it overall. So I will touch on that, and we'll talk about it. But I do think that for the majority of people, probably 85-90% people, these are the easiest methods and probably a very good value for your points. So you can definitely get some good value from there. So as always, if you like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up. Or if you know somebody who might benefit from this video, feel free to share it with them. Remember, I post new videos every Thursday. So if you like learning about credit cards, points, miles, or cash back, consider the subscribe button down below. And I will see you all this Thursday. Safe travels and take care, everyone. And champ, no problem about the questions, man. That's what I'm here for.